everyone, my name is Keely. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. Today I'm going to talk about all the TV shows and movies that I watched this spring. So I'm going to cover March, April, and May, so we have 3 months to cover. And of course, we're going to start with March, and I have 3 things to talk about. So the first TV show that I watched in March was actually a new TV show on Netflix called Pressure Cooker. So this show is actually like Big Brother, Survivor, and Food Network all wrapped up into one show, and it was fantastic. So basically we follow a group of contestants, and they all live in one house for the entirety of this competition. And they have to go through several different cooking and baking challenges. Sometimes it's individual, sometimes they're in a pair, and sometimes they're in a group. And at the end of these competitions, they basically get graded and rate each other, and they have to vote people off, and the last one standing wins the money prize. So I am a huge reality TV show fan, especially when it comes to Survivor, when you have to vote people off, and I also really love cooking shows. So the fact that we have those two things put together was really great. I thought it was so much fun, and there also was a lot of strategy involved. So not only did you have to be a really good chef, you had to be really smart and kind of sneaky as well, and create little alliances along the way. Overall, I really enjoyed it, and the person that won was my favorite contestant, so I was very happy, and I can't wait to watch more of the show. Hopefully it gets renewed. The next show I watched in March was Criminal Minds Evolution. So this is season 1 of the renewal show, but season 16 of the continuation of Criminal Minds. Of course, not all the actors came back for the show, but I am happy that we are getting more Criminal Minds because it is one of my favorite shows of all time. And this renewal is even darker and gorier and grittier, and I loved it so much because it is so much darker than the original Criminal Minds, because now it's on a streaming service, so they can go darker with it. I will say the language is a lot worse than the original show, and because I watched 15 seasons of these characters not cursing that way, it feels fake and it doesn't feel right for certain characters to be cursing like that, just because I've known them for a decade now, and so it's weird to see them randomly start saying words or things that they haven't said before. So that's my only critique, but this is even more intense than the original show. We get left on cliffhangers all the time, and it's so crazy. I cannot wait for season 2 or the next rendition of Criminal Minds Evolution. And the last thing I watched in March was a rewatch of one of my favorite movies, and that is Matilda the Musical, which is on Netflix. I just love this movie so much. The music in it is so iconic and it's so great. The cast is my favorite Matilda cast I've ever seen, and I've seen the original Matilda, this one, and then I've also seen Matilda in London, and so I've seen so many different casts and renditions of this story, and I love this one the most, and so I will always watch it, I will always love it, and it's just so great, and I cry every time too. Moving on to April, I watched 7 things that month, and the first one I need to talk about is Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, which is a documentary on Netflix. Now this documentary follows Warren Jeffs and his cult. If you haven't heard of it, definitely go look it up. It's way too much to explain. But this is a story that I have been interested in for years and years, and I know a lot about it, but I will always watch a new documentary about it when it comes out. And it's kind of creepy in a way because the commune that they had in Texas, we actually know people who have property by that building, so they often would see the building. They even came upon Warren Jeffs at one point, so it's I know somebody who has talked to Warren Jeffs. But this cult is horrible, horrendous, as most, if not all, cults are, but it is absolutely wild and crazy how things went down, and I really did enjoy this documentary. Now, I was still kind of in the true crime culty vibes, so I watched Stolen Youth on Hulu, which is another documentary about a cult inside of Sarah Lawrence University. So Sarah Lawrence is this artsy, prestigious school, and we follow a group of kids who they get intertwined with one of their classmates' fathers and get kind of in a cult that way. It is so wild, and a lot of times I'm like, how do people get into cults? I find the psychology of it so fascinating. But in this one, oh my gosh, it makes no sense. 0 sense. The people, these college kids, they had their friend's dad living with them like it was a totally normal thing, and the things he was saying, like he recorded a lot of his preaching that he did to them, and it is unhinged and wild. And the fact that he didn't get just one college student to follow him, but he got like a handful of them, makes no sense to me. It is completely wild, and this one is one that I hadn't really heard about, and it just truly astonishes me how people can like fall for some of these things, but also how people prey on the weak. It is crazy and wild, and I do recommend this one overall. The next cult documentary I watched was Waco American Apocalypse, which was on Netflix. This is a documentary about the Waco explosion and the cult there, the David Koresh cult. And so I live in Texas. I grew up in Texas, so I grew up knowing all about the David Koresh cult in Waco. I've driven by where it happened, all that stuff. I hated this documentary so much. So David Koresh, obviously cult leader, horrible, terrible person. The people that they had on this documentary were still under David Koresh's rule and were still spreading his word throughout this documentary, which made no sense. If you're gonna have someone on this documentary, you need to have people that are condemning his word and how he married and had relations with minors, but instead they had people that were like, oh, you come of age when you're like 12, it's okay. And they had people defending David Koresh. So the fact that this documentary was even made and they're still spreading David Koresh's word just was repulsive and makes no sense. I do not recommend this one at all. It made me so angry because all the people that were on it were defending David Koresh, and you cannot defend a monster like him. Next, I watched season 1 of School Spirits, which is on Paramount+, and this TV show actually follows a high school girl who wakes up one day as a ghost in her high school, and she becomes friends and gets into this group of other ghosts within the high school. But the catch is, she doesn't know how she died, how she was murdered, or what happened to her. So her and the other ghosts are trying to help her get used to being a ghost and come to terms with the fact that she's dead. I love this show so much. Please, please, please go and watch it so it can get renewed for a season 2. The actors in the show are some of my favorite. We have Peyton List, who is Maddie, the main girl, and then we also have Milo Manheim, which I love him, and he plays Wally so well. But some of the actors in here, there's an actor and he plays the character Simon. That role, I have goosebumps thinking about how amazing that actor is for Simon. I cried so much during this show. I laughed. It was also spooky, and then you're also trying to figure out the mystery of what happened to Maddie. I love this one so much, and I cannot recommend it enough. Next, I started House, and I watched season 1, and I started watching this because I was on TikTok and I saw a bunch of medical show TikToks on my For You page, and so I started watching episodes, and I was like, you know what, I love medical shows, but there are some, like Grey's Anatomy, that I can't watch because I absolutely hate them, but I love medical shows, so I was like, let me give this one a try, and I got sucked in so quickly. House is an older TV show, so you've probably heard of it, but I binge watched season 1 like in a day or two. I was so sucked in, and I will say once again, these characters are absolutely horrible. I don't know how they're not arrested yet. They literally break into people's houses, they lie to patients left and right, and you cannot tell me that doctors know what they're doing. Because the entirety of the show is them just guessing and seeing if it works. It's literally trial and error, but I was obsessed with it. So yes, season 1, I enjoyed it. Next, on my flight back from Boston, I wanted to watch an animated kids movie, so I watched DC League of Super Pets, and it was really cute. So this is all following pets of the DC superheroes, and I love anything that has like talking pets or talking animals, and in this one all of the DC superheroes are being held hostage, so the pets have to go and save them. It is just as cute as it sounds, and I just had so much fun watching it. And the last thing I watched in April was House season 2. Once again, this is a wild show. Don't know how people are not in prison, but I still enjoyed season 2. And finally, in May, I have 7 more things that I need to talk about. The first thing that I watched in May was another rewatch, and that was Pitch Perfect. It was the end of the school year, so we were watching it in the classroom, and I just love Pitch Perfect so much. It recently became available on Netflix, so that's where we watched it, and this movie is just so good. The music is truly some of the best like movie music I've ever heard of, and I still know it perfectly every time. I just love this story so much, and it is probably one of my favorite movies of all time, honestly. Next, I watched the newest season of Junior Bake Off, which was on Netflix, and it was actually season 7, and I love Bake Off so much, and the junior edition is just even better because it is so wholesome with the little kids baking, and how are they so talented? I just loved it so much, and honestly, the winner of season 7 I called from like the very first episode, and I was really happy for them. Next, I watched Survivor season 44, and yes, 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 yes! This cast was one of my favorite casts I've ever seen. I really, really loved them, and I love them so much, and the friendships that were formed, I had so many favorite cast members of this season. Usually I only have like 1, maybe 2 favorites, but this season I had like 5 different favorites. I keep a whole list in my phone of each season, and this one I had to just like keep typing out who my favorites were, and I am pleased to say one of my favorite people won the entire season, and I am so happy for them. But yes, overall I am very happy with how this season went. Next, I watched the very hyped Jury Duty, which is on Amazon Prime, and this one is interesting and it's very hard to describe. Well, maybe not that hard, but let me try it anyway. So this is filmed documentary style, and we follow actors who are going to jury duty, and everyone on the show is an actor except for one guy, Ronald. Ronald thinks that he is actually in jury duty and filming a real documentary, and it is so hysterical. But also, Ronald is truly one of the best people on this earth. It is so interesting, like the psychology of it, to see how Ronald reacts to these crazy, unhinged scenarios that happen. I definitely recommend it. It is such a unique TV show and unlike anything I've ever seen. Next, I watched season 13 of Bob's Burgers. I've been watching Bob's Burgers for years and years and years. It is one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and I don't know what else I can say. I love it. It was just as funny as it's always been, and if you haven't watched it, definitely go watch it. I think it's hilarious. It is my exact type of humor. And the last thing I watched in May was Smile. Now, this is a thriller horror movie about this entity that you see, and it makes you unalive yourself, and in order to carry on the chain, you have to brutally unalive yourself in front of other people, and then they are kind of like haunted by this entity. You may have seen some of the commercials. They have that little weird looking smile. Yeah, so originally I was really liking it, but then it got really dumb. The ending, I hated it. I hated the ending so much. I could come up with so many better solutions than what she did, and I just don't understand why she didn't do the thing that I'm thinking. But I didn't really enjoy this one. I thought it was okay. There are a ton of jump scares in this movie, so if you don't like jump scares, don't watch it. But I don't know if I would recommend it overall anyway, just because the ending was not it. So that's everything that I watched this spring. Let me know your favorite thing that you recently watched. I would love to know. But that is it for this video. If you have made it this far, go ahead and leave the old school TV emoji. But that is it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, all my social media links will be down below, and I will see you next time. Bye!